Is that water?
That is water. I mean,
but
tastes like water.
But your favorite drink is Diet
Well,
Coke,
I mean, Diet Coke is good. There's something that they put in that stuff that is, you know, you never get sick of it for some reason. You know.
And have you counted?
It's some infernal ingredient.
How many cones your bottles you have a day? It's a lot, huh?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to cut down these days, so maybe.
From where to where?
I mean, there was probably times when I had like 8 a day or something ridiculous.
Okay.
But I think these days it's probably 1 or 2, so it's not too crazy.
Okay. And coffee?
Usually 2 a day.
Not so much.
I mean, not really. But yeah, I used to have so much coffee and you know, Diet Coke that I get really wired, and then I'd get over caffeinated, and it wouldn't be good.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm cutting down to I think more reasonable portions these days.
Okay. I think you drink so much coffee or Diet Coke because you work so many hours every day. That keeps you awake. How many hours do you work? How looks a normal day in the life of Elon Musk like?
Well, it's really varied quite a bit over time. So these days, it's probably 80, 85 hours a week. For a while it was over 100 hours a week, and that's a very high amount of pain. So it's, the difficulty and pain of work hours really increases exponentially. It's not linear. But when the financial crisis hit in 2008, 2009, it was just every day, 7 days a week, morning till night, and dream about work.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was terrible.
And at the time there were bad dreams, I guess.
Bad dreams,
2008.
indeed. Yes. Yeah.
And at what time do you get up normally in the morning?
For me, it's usually about 7.
7, okay.
But I go to bed late, so usually I go to bed around 1 a.m. or so.
1 a.m. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you start the day with a real breakfast, or just with a coffee, or with a water?
That also varies a lot. I think it's probably true that having a good breakfast is a good idea, but usually I don't have time for that. So sometimes it's made for me, but probably half the time I don't have any breakfast. I had to have like coffee or something like that.
And a Mars bar with it?
Mars bar, sure. And I'm trying to cut down on sweet stuff. So, but I think I probably should have like an omelet and a coffee or something like that. That seems like probably the right thing. And sometimes I do have that.
And for lunch? Is there lunch?
Yeah. Lunch is usually served to me during a meeting, and I finish it in 5 minutes.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I know, it's a bad habit.
And dinner?
Dinner is where the calories really come into play, because if I have dinner meetings are the worst, because then you eat enough for like 2 people in those things, because you have the appetizer and the main course and all that stuff. So business dinners are like the thing that really, where I probably eat way too much.
Mm-hmm. But you don't have problems with your weight?
I certainly could be slimmer, I think. Yeah.
What?
Do you work out then? Do you do sports?
I work out once or twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
Once or twice.
You should.
I should do it more often, for sure.
And what are you doing? You run through the forest, or?
Run through the forest? No.
Yeah.
Usually just like a little bit on the treadmill or on lifting some weights, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's come to my questions I have here. It's just 122, I guess. How much Musk is in Tesla and SpaceX and Hyperloop? Is it 100% you, or?
Oh, well, of course, definitely not. I mean, I certainly have a strong influence, but I mean, there are many people at the companies, so SpaceX has 4,000 people now. Tesla, we just passed 10,000 people today. So there's a lot of people that have had a huge influence on building the company, or companies. More of an influence than anyone else, but it is a big team effort from a lot of talented people.
Yes. You looked for a CEO in former times for Tesla and for SpaceX also? I don't know.
Not for SpaceX,
Not
but
yet.
no. The plan I had when we created Tesla was I thought I would allocate maybe 20 or 30% of my time to Tesla, and then for Solar City I figured 5%, 10% of my time, that kind of thing. Solar City turned out to be true. In fact, even better than that, probably takes me less than 5% of my time on Solar City. Tesla ended up being much more, and unfortunately, like the first CEO didn't work out, and then I got sort of a temporary. I mean, I really tried pretty hard not to be the CEO. Like I could have been the CEO from day one. This is like people maybe sometimes don't realize that, but I just wasn't able to find the right person. In the case of Solar City, there's like a great team that runs it, but it's really hard to find someone who can grow a company. It's like running a company in steady state is much easier than growing a company. And then with Tesla, as people joined the team and investors would, people joining the team and investors would ask me, okay, well, how long am I going to be CEO? And so I said, well, I'm committed to be CEO through the high volume production vehicle.
So 2 more years at least.
Probably 3 or 4.
3 or 4 years.
Yeah, but at that point, I would then have to consider what makes sense, and I would. I mean, I will never leave Tesla ever, but I may not be CEO forever. I mean, nobody should be CEO forever.
Do you have somebody in mind who could do the job already?
No.
Worldwide?
There's no plans or anything like that. Right now, my plan is just to, for sure, I'll be CEO through the Model 3, volume production of the Model 3 and the Gigafactory, and then evaluate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Model 3 is still the price you want to have is $30,000. That's the challenge. $35,000. And the same in euro, I guess, for the European market.
Well, it might be less if
less?
it depends on what the exchange rate is, of course.
Of course.
And it's always a bit tricky. Like in the U.S., the prices are quoted before sales tax, and of course in Europe it's with VAT, and there's like 20% VAT and all that stuff. So probably would be more like 30,000 euros, or a little bit less than that.
Okay. And it should be on the market in 2 years' time, or?
I'd say 3.
3 from now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coming back to you looking for a CEO, apart from CEOs, when you hire people, what kind of skills do you want them to have? Are there any? Do you look at a list and look at people? How do you decide that?
Well, when I interview somebody, I really just ask them to tell me the story of their career and what are some of the tougher problems that they dealt with, how they dealt with those, and how they made decisions at key transition points. And usually that's enough for me to get a very good gut feel about someone. And what I'm really looking for is evidence of exceptional ability. So did they face really difficult problems and overcome them? And then of course you want to make sure that if there was some significant accomplishment, were they really responsible, or was somebody else more responsible? And usually the person who's had to struggle with the problem, they really understand it. And they don't forget. If it was very difficult. So you can ask them very detailed questions about it, and they'll know the answer. Okay, whereas the person who was not truly responsible for that accomplishment will not know the details.
Which college or which university?
No, it's not. There's no need even to have a college degree.
Oh, wow. Okay.
At all, or even high school. I mean, if somebody graduated from a great university, that may be an indication that they will be capable of great things, but it's not necessarily the case. You know, if you look at, say, people like Bill Gates or Larry Ellison, Steve Jobs, these guys didn't graduate from college.
Dropouts, yeah.
But if you had a chance to hire them, of course, that would be a good idea.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know, just looking just for evidence of exceptional ability, and if there's a track record of exceptional achievement, then it's likely that that will continue into the future.
And what does people like you and Steve Jobs have in common, or Bill Gates, or people like that? What is it you have in common with them?
Well, I mean, those are pretty different personalities, you know, between Gates and Jobs and Ellison.
Business and success.
I think you know, all three of those were technologists, but with different types of skills. You know, Jobs was obviously very good with aesthetics, and you know, he understood technology, of course, and he really understood what people wanted, even when they didn't know themselves. And he was not afraid to, you know, break boundaries. But, like, say, like Gates would probably be better at, you know, sort of raw engineering and technology than Jobs, but not as good on aesthetics. But I mean, for all of these guys, they're obviously very driven, and they're very talented, and yeah, and they're able to attract great people to build a company. But I mean, the ability to attract and motivate great people is critical to the success of a company, because a company is just, it's a group of people that are assembled to create a product or service. That's the purpose of a company. People sometimes forget this elementary truth. And so if, you know, if you're able to get great people to join the company and work together towards a common goal, and you sort of have a relentless sense of perfection about that goal, then you will end up with a great product. And if you have a great product, lots of people will buy it. And then the company will be successful.
Yeah.
But really, it's pretty straightforward, really. I mean, yeah, that's the reason for it.
You have a lot of talents. Is there any talent you would like to have, you don't have? Singing, dancing, music?
Oh,
I don't know what you...
Well, I mean, I suppose I'd like to play a musical instrument. That'd be cool. I can whistle.
You can whistle?
I can whistle.
What is your favorite song to whistle?
I kind of have like a whole bunch of songs that kind of randomly, I just whistle randomly. Please don't ask me to whistle, because that's like, you know, I mean, I can whistle, but like this is like, yeah, maybe not the coolest instrument to play. Yeah. But I can whistle Pachelbel's Canon, which is a tricky one.
Really?
Yeah. But I'm not going to whistle for you now, because that'd be too embarrassing.
Okay. Well, it's good to know. Maybe we plan something for Berlin.
All right. Oh, man.
No. Don't worry. We want to. How would you describe yourself? What are the main attributes you have from your point of view?
How would I describe myself? Well, I mean, I seem to have a high innate drive, and that's been true even since I was a little kid. You know, I really had a very strong drive. You know, sort of did all sorts of risky things when I was a kid that like, why did I do those things? They're crazy. So I think that's very helpful. And I care a lot about the truth of things and trying to understand the truth of things. I think that's important. If you're going to come up with some solution, then the truth is really, really important, I think. I try to think of. I mean, it's difficult to obviously come up with like things that are praise for oneself, or like there's bad and good here, but I think like sometimes they're just like the things that seem quite clear and obvious to me, and I don't understand why they aren't so obvious to everyone.
So would you describe yourself as fearless? I mean, are there areas when you seek people for advice, and who would you ask for?
I wouldn't say I'm fearless. In fact, I think I feel fear quite strongly. But if what we're doing is what I'm doing is I think is important enough, then I just override the fear.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's not as though I feel it like more strongly than I would like.
And in which areas would you never go full risk if you still are fearful?
Well, it really depends on the stakes. If the stakes are high, if it's really important, then I will overcome the fear and just do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, I mean, I just drive overrides fear, but I feel the fear. It's kind of annoying. I wish I didn't.
Okay.
I wish I felt it less.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. All these introspective questions are interesting. I don't get asked these very often. And then, like, I'm trying to think, like, what is like an accurate reply? And some of these, it's hard to evaluate yourself in these things.
Mm-hmm.
Which company you founded was the most risky at the start?
Well, probably SpaceX. I thought it had the lowest chance of success. I mean, I thought both Tesla and SpaceX would fail at the beginning.
You saw it?
Yeah, sure.
Really?
Of course.
But nevertheless, you put all your money in that. Both.
I expected to lose it. Well, technically, what I thought was, well, I'll take half the money from PayPal, and if I lose half of it, that's okay. But then, of course, the companies encounter difficulties, and then I have a choice of either let the company die or put, all the money into the companies. And so I really didn't want the companies to die, so I put all the money in the companies.
Yeah.
And then I had to borrow money from friends to pay living expenses.
Yes. And what went through your mind at the end of 2008 when the fourth and the last rocket started? What were your thoughts at that time?
It was a terrible time.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything was going wrong at once. 3 rocket failures in a row in the beginning, and Tesla financing round was falling apart or fell apart. The Solar City was having difficulties, getting divorced.
Yeah.
It was really terrible.
Yeah.
So I was very sad.
But then everything was perfect when
well, it took a
rocket
while.
Was in space.
Yeah, at the end of 2008, the 4th launch worked.
Yes.
Which is that was all the money we had, but nothing more. In fact, originally I budgeted. I thought, okay, we can survive 3 failures. So we just barely scraped together enough to do a 4th launch.
Mm.
And then at the end of 2008, we got a big NASA contract, literally on December 23rd, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah. So it went from really terrible to, I remember that Sunday before Christmas in 2008 thinking that this is the closest I've ever come to a nervous breakdown. Like, I never thought I would ever be someone who could have a nervous breakdown, and I didn't. I mean, but it was like I could see it. Like, I was within sight of it. It was like, this sucks. This is terrible. And then the next morning, NASA called and said that we'd won this $1.5 billion.
The next morning.
Yeah, the next morning. Like, literally, I was at home, and I thought they'd all gone home for the holidays. I didn't think that, I would have said there was no chance of a call a few days before Christmas. I thought people, be on vacation and that kind of thing. So,
1.5 billion.
Yeah.
So what went through your mind when they called you? What do you feel?
That was awesome. I was like, I actually said to the NASA guys that I love you. I don't think they've gotten that response before. So, so that was, the Monday morning, and then I think it was the Tuesday night or the Wednesday night was when we closed the financing round for Tesla, and that was like 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve. It was the last hour of the last day when it was possible, and we would have gone bankrupt a few days after Christmas if that round had not closed.
Yeah, you flew for the NASA and for other.
Yeah, we've launched satellites for commercial operators. So SES in Europe and Orbcom in the US and a number of other companies.
Yeah.
Maybe we've got a
Alarm?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
The car.
you seem quiet.
Stolen the car. Maybe they stole our Dodge.
Oh, Dodge.
Somebody.
Well, hopefully not.
Hopefully. Okay. What was your best idea ever?
My best idea ever?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is tricky. I suppose coming to North America was my best idea.
Okay.
Because I think these things would not have been accomplished, almost anywhere else. It's really hard to start a company, but and particularly California, Silicon Valley is very conducive to startup companies, and so whenever I'd read books in South Africa, it would seem like the cutting edge of technology was in Silicon Valley, and so that's when I wanted to come and I wanted to move to this mythical place.
Okay.
And are there things you regret having done or for not having done so far?
Well, there's lots of things that, when life is short, and there's lots of things that could be done that one can't necessarily do. And these really are introspective questions. Overall, I think I'm pretty happy with where things are. It's hard not to be, honestly. Yeah. Things are in a good place right now, and I'd like to, looking ahead, I'd like to see humanity go beyond Earth and have people on Mars. That would be really great. And to see widespread adoption of electric vehicles and renewable energy. These are great things. And I think those would be really, really cool.
But is there like a business decision which you regret, like what you should have never done in retrospective?
In retrospect, I should have bitten the bullet and been CEO of Tesla from the beginning. Then that would have been, that would have been the smart move. Because we ended up having to essentially recapitalize the company, and it went through a lot of grief. So that would have been a wise move. I mean, some things are better with, with hindsight, of course, you can say, well, this decision or that decision. I mean, Tesla was essentially built on two false ideas, or started on two false ideas, one of which was that we would be able to use the Lotus Elise chassis to minimize the cost of creating an electric vehicle, and the other was that we could use the technology from AC Propulsion, a small company in California, for the electric powertrain.
So you won't do the same mistake again, so you start from zero with this topic? Well,
we actually use a lot of components from other companies. So it's like the, Bosch is our supplier of the long-range ultrasonics and the radar. And then the whole camera assembly and everything, we do the camera assembly, but we use a Mobileye chip. But all of the software for integrating that, we do at Tesla.
Okay.
We met each other last year for the interview, and then you told me that you wanted to die on Mars, not while entering Mars, but after landing there. So I
mean, well, it's not as though I'm dying to die on Mars, but it's like if you're going to die somewhere.
Why not on Mars?
Well,
Okay.
I mean,
So
choice A, choice B.
So what should happen? What should happen to your ashes then? Like being dead on Mars, what do you do with your ashes?
With my ashes, I don't know. I'm gone. I don't care.
You don't care.
They can do anything.
Put it in space somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe scatter the ashes on Mars. That would be cool, sure. But I mean, the whole sort of retired Mars thing was like a reporter asked me that question 6 years ago or something. It's like, where do you want to retire? And I actually said, well, I'm not sure I'll ever retire completely, but if I were to retire somewhere, then Mars would be a good way to go. I mean, in the ideal circumstance, I'd make one trip to Mars, come back to Earth, and then when it's time to when you get really old, then go back to Mars when I'm like 75 or something, and then you die there, and seems like if you're going to die anywhere, why not die on Mars?
You're right.
Have you gone to space already?
No.
No. And do you want to?
Sure. I mean, I'll probably go there in like maybe 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
You will test it.
Yeah.
Okay. What will happen first, the tube from San Francisco to LA, the Hyperloop, or the first man on Mars?
I think the Hyperloop is more likely to happen first. Well, it's a good question. Well, if you say that particular route, I'm not sure, because there are all sorts of constraints in getting permits to build a big thing. But I think I think there's going to be some company or group that creates a Hyperloop, but it may be a different route. And I know there's one company that's looking closely at the Los Angeles to Las Vegas. Because that's quite a popular trip, and that's much easier to make that trip, make that route work.
Okay.
Okay.
What makes you happy?
Well, I think if things are going well with family and things are going well at work, then I'm happy. Okay. If either one of them is not going well, then I'm either half unhappy or completely unhappy.
Okay. Okay. And talk about happiness.
But that's I think that's generally true. Okay. If things are going well on personal life and work life, then one is happy.
Okay. And talk about happiness. How did you like Burning Man?
It was good. Yeah. I mean, it's my 14th time. So it was it's always good. So I encourage people to come and check it out.
So I've been there this year. So it was.
Oh, you did go. Okay, great.
So I was.
What do you think?
Did you? Amazing.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
it's
so
like
good, life changing.
Life changing. Yeah. Exactly. See.
So have you ever thought about building an art car? Or have you built one?
Yeah. Sure.
Have you built one already?
I've done 3 art cars.
Okay.
One was actually built on. This is probably 10 years ago. Was built on an Oldsmobile, an old Oldsmobile, with a big wraparound couch over the hood until you're sitting on top of the engine driving backwards.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind kind of fun car. It broke down a lot, of course. Oldsmobile. I mean, broke down a
Bring
lot.
up your James Bond car, submarine transformation car to the Burning Man?
No. The James Bond car, the Lotus Esprit submarine, it's in the Tesla design studio.
Ah, okay. Still being worked on?
No, it's currently just sitting there. What I'm hopefully going to do at some point is we're going to create a sort of a replica, but not quite, because like if you look at the James Bond car, it's not technically possible to make that a submarine, because a transformative thing, because the fins are right where the wheels are.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
like it doesn't fit. Like
Okay.
it's not physically possible to do the transformation. But if you make the car about 10, if you scale it up by about 10%, and you move the fins just a little bit more towards the outer edges, so that they're not like sitting right in front of the wheels, then you can make it work.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and plus it's probably good to preserve the original, movie art, essentially, of the original car. Yeah, talked to a few of my guys, and we think we can make it work as a transformation car with those constraints. So it'll actually look very similar. Like you'd have to look closely to see if it's different, but yeah, I think it'd be fun to be able to drive up on the beach and in that submarine car.
Do you own other old cars?
I'll tell you so there's two gasoline cars that I own, and not that many people know about these, but one is a Series 1 67 E-Type Jaguar, Roadster, and that was the first car I bought when I actually had any money. In fact, when my first company received an investment, the venture capitalists gave us a $40,000, me and my brother, a $40,000 bonus, and I spent $35,000 on this car, and it broke down on the way back. It was very sad. Like, damn it, I didn't even make it home. But that was a car when I was about 17. I was given for my birthday a book of classic convertibles, and I thought, well, if I could ever afford a car, one of these cars in the book, there were two that I liked the most. One was the Gullwing Mercedes, but there's no way I could, that was like millions of dollars. And then the other was the Series, the E-Type Jaguar, Series 1, yeah.
And now you could afford the Mercedes, but you haven't bought it yet.
I haven't. I think it's a great design, really great. It's partly inspires the Model X, of course. That might be a good one to buy at some point. But the other car that I got is a Model T that a friend of mine bought and gave me. Those things are hard to drive, though. Have you ever tried to drive a Model T? It's like not easy.
Yeah. It's really work. Seems to be really work.
The controls are all totally different too.
Yes.
There's no gas pedal. It's like there's a gas. To change the throttle, it's a stick on the steering wheel.
Okay.
Yeah.